Hey everyone, this is Charles Dimitri from loungeboudoir.com, and today in this episode of Boudoir Pose Breakdown, we're going to take a look at the boudoir portrait. Now, the boudoir portrait is a nice break from just concentrating on the subject's body and her form. It's a chance to kind of meet the person, get to know the person on a human level, because we're basically concentrating on their face and their eyes. If they're looking in the camera. And when I say get to know, I'm talking about the viewer getting to know the subject, gaining an insight into who this person is. So taking someone's portrait allows us to kind of connect with another person on a humanistic level, on a human level. And there's an unspoken message of communication between the image and the viewer of that person's humanity. So believe it or not, the boudoir portrait is one of my favorite images to capture. And it's because I think I've gotten the most authentic and genuine portrait shots of people, even though it's in a boudoir shoot scenario, than maybe traditional portraiture. Because I believe it's because the person's guard is down. They're not there to get their portrait taken. They're there to sort of get sexy boudoir images. And so their mind is distracted in the sense that I'll be telling them to, stand against the wall there, or, against the window, and, pop your hip out, drop that shoulder, look in the camera or look out the window. And then I give them a scenario to think about. And so they're given physical tasks and like a mental task, and hopefully the mental scenario will fuel some emotion in them, and that will manifest itself in their expression. And then I just snap away. I'll zoom in, or I will step in if I'm using a prime and start taking some portraitures. So let me show you some boudoir portraits that I've taken here. I'll put myself down here for now. This is one of my favorite boudoir portraits I've ever captured. I think I just sort of captured a completely unguarded and real expression in her face. I just love this image, and it's very captivating. It just draws you in, and there's such a connection between, her and the viewer, and I just love this shot here. Here's a more traditional kind of boudoir, sexy portrait. And then this is one where she's looking away. And I love this negative space here on the left. I converted this to black and white. This was something I'll talk about a little bit later. Here's another boudoir portrait, and then one from the same shoot. Looking away. Here she's looking in the camera. And I've got, let's see, here's one. This is the one that I shoot sort of against the window, obviously. And then sort of a variation on that is this one here, where I've stepped back a little bit. So as I was saying, I think I get more authentic and genuine boudoir portraits during a boudoir session than during a normal portrait session, because during a normal portrait session, the woman is coming in and she's probably, feeling a little nervous or insecure about certain things. Like we all have certain things we're not crazy about, and we're going to get our picture taken, and we're sitting there, we're staring into the camera and, waiting for the photographer to click. And your mind is just sort of, going in all different directions. But during a boudoir session, I usually take the boudoir portrait after one or two sessions or one or two series of shots. So the client is pretty warmed up. Maybe they've had a wardrobe change or two, and all their nerves and insecurities have sort of diminished because you've shown them pictures from the back of the camera, and they realize, this is going to turn out, better than I thought, and they just start to loosen up. And that's a really good time to sort of capture boudoir portraits there. So what is the pose saying? The pose is saying whatever the subject is feeling or thinking about in the moment. And it's okay if you don't know exactly what that is, if it's a bit ambiguous or it's a bit of a mystery, because I think that only promotes to engage the viewer even more in the image. You know, they might be trying to figure out exactly what they're feeling, but the point isn't to really know that exactly. The point is that the subject is filled with some type of emotion that you know, the viewer can connect with on a human level. What the boudoir portrait is really saying is it's saying, stop, you know, look at me. I'm a human being. I have the same fears and hopes and dreams that you do. And this is what I'm feeling right now. And I'm sure that you've felt this way at some point in your life as well, if you want to get philosophical about it, which, you know, if you've read any of my stuff, I tend to do. So what is the structure of the pose? The structure of the pose is pretty simple. I like to capture boudoir portraits when the subject is standing or possibly sitting in a chair, but sitting kind of upright. I don't really think, let me get to that shot, that would be considered a boudoir portrait just because they're lying on their back. I would sort of classify that more as a close-up, because I still think you need to retain the upright position of traditional portraiture, such as this shot, or any of these other shots where the person is, you know, upright. So what are the benefits that the boudoir portrait gives you? One of the benefits is something I've talked about before, and that's variety of mood. Most of your traditional boudoir shots are going to be very sexy and sensual or provocative. But with a boudoir portrait, you're kind of putting that in the background, and you're bringing that person's personality and you know, more human qualities to the forefront. A really nice thing that I like to do is, if you have a collection of images that you're putting together in an album, you can start with a boudoir portrait, almost like you're kind of introducing yourself. Hello, this is who I am. I'm a human being just like you. And then you have in the middle your more traditional sexy boudoir images, and then you end with a boudoir portrait at the end. So it's kind of like the client or the subject is saying, hello, you know, they're greeting you, they're meeting you. And then this is who I am in sort of a sexual context, and I'm being vulnerable here by sharing this with you. And then they're kind of saying goodbye, almost like a little handshake at the end, with another boudoir portraiture. So bookending your album with two boudoir portraits is a really nice way to sort of present the sexy images in the middle. And it doesn't quite have as much objectification to it, I guess, you know, if you want to sort of go there, by including the portraits in the collection. Also, it adds depth of meaning to your shoot, because when you include a few boudoir portraits sprinkled throughout the collection, that sort of humanistic type picture lingers over the entire collection. So when you're even looking at the more traditional sexy images, you sort of have that person's face and humanistic side to them, that emotional side to them, that lingers over these other sexy pictures. So I think it adds an extra layer to the sexy pictures as well, just by including a few portraits in your collection. Also, including a boudoir portrait or two in someone's session makes the shoot much more personable and also impressionable. Like I mentioned before, it has sort of this lasting effect, influencing all your other sexy images. They can also be much more deeply felt on an emotional level, because a lot of times you have that eye contact with the subject in the portrait, that emotional connection, and it really adds a nice personal touch to someone's boudoir session. So the next time you have your session, capture a few boudoir portraits. oh, I think I mentioned this, but I may not have. But I never tell my subject when I'm shooting the portrait. I'll just step in if I'm shooting with a prime, or I'll zoom in and capture some shots, and they don't even know I'm taking their portrait. So that's it for now. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and or subscribe. I will be making more of these boudoir pose breakdown videos in the future. And hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. And I will see you at a future point in the YouTube universe.